Hi, this is the G632 USB and MIDI to CV interface from Grove Audio. I was sent this for free by Grove Audio, but they didn't reach out to me. I actually reached out to them because I was looking for a MIDI module where you could use 5-pin DIN MIDI and USB MIDI, so I could control it with my computer and my new MPC. And I looked at a few options. The only two that were sort of affordable were this or the Dopefer one. And the Dopefer had the ability to add slides, but that wasn't that useful for me as they weren't gated. The thing that set this apart for me was it's only 6 HP, so it's smaller, and it has the MIDI out as well, which means you can string it through to other MIDI devices, and I think you can control other 5-pin DIN MIDI devices from the USB from your computer as well, so it adds the ability to do USB to 5-pin MIDI conversion as well. On top of that, if you buy the kit version, which is what I've got here, it works out even cheaper than the Dopefer one as well, so it's super cheap, and yeah, it has some really good features for such a cheap module. So I'm gonna try and put this together and hopefully it works, and then I'll have a quick jam with my MPC. As you've seen so far, it runs on a Teensy microcontroller which is included and comes loaded with the latest firmware. You also get a load of free stuff in the box. You get a tool for bending the leads of capacitors and resistors and anything else really. You get the solder you'll need. You get some wire cutters to cut the legs off all the components, a disc with a document on how to build it, and a sticker and a free pen, loads of cool stuff. So I'll stick the sticker on my guitar and then I'll get going building it. So all the parts are in separate bags, labelled with the values and what number part they need to fit to on the board. There's a load of resistors, capacitors, a few different ICs, some ferrite beads, and then obviously you get the panel and the PCB as well, which are packed separately. Both look really nice, and the PCB is nicely laid out. So I started by soldering the resistors. I usually place them all at once. I use the lead bender to make it easier to put them in. So I place all the different resistors at once and soldered them all at once. This was when I noticed on the board, each thing is labelled above it. So if you see the name of the part, R1, R2, etc. is always above, not inside the resistor symbol. So that's why it's good to place them all first. You'll see on here, see R7 is labelled above, so that's not R8, that's R7. You can see down the other end, C2, you can see the capacitor shape, and C2 is in a resistor box, but that's because it's the one below. So just take your time to make sure you get that right, but other than that, it's pretty easy. So yeah, placed them all and started soldering them. That way you make sure you don't accidentally put one in the wrong place, because you placed them all, so you know you've got it right. Then I placed the ferrite beads and the power conditioner and the capacitors. Soldered them as well. Added the IC sockets and the transistors. The transistors are a little bit tricky to solder, but everything else is easy. The dip switches, stuff like that. And yeah, the transistors have quite small pads, so maybe use a finer soldering iron if you have one, but I managed with my normal one. So then I soldered the sockets. I obviously soldered them with the panel attached to make sure that they weren't sort of wonky or anything. And then the last thing is you've got to solder the teensy and solder a little wire. It says in the build document a little wire to the reset switch. And then yeah, it looks like this, it's all finished. Probably took me 2-3 hours to build it, but you could possibly do it quicker if you really rushed.